Education is one of the most valuable and necessary things for the citizens of a nation. When we look at education in America today, things don't look promising. The percentage of high school graduates who are prepared to enter the university without remedial work is extremely low. By using the statistics of international test scores, it seems that the further American students advance through elementary and secondary school, the worse they do in comparison with international students. Education is a tool that can be used your entire life. It is for this reason that I decided that the most urgent issue for the President-elect to address after taking office is education and how to improve our schools, possibly through the liberal arts. Schools changed drastically in 1940 when the Industrial Revolution caused a change in America's identity from an agrarian to an industrial nation. During this time, there was a major movement for reform in the public schools. This reform was focused upon two opposing viewpoints on education. These were the academic curriculum and progressive education. The academic curriculum helped to make a brighter and more intelligent society. This curriculum was valuable for reasons such as it gave the educated the power to think and reason well, it taught students to use what they know, and how to turn learning into understanding. Although the academic curriculum was valuable, progressive education went out because authorities believed too much time was wasted in the name of culture. Because of the times, people were trained for either the shop, the factory, or the home, since learning for its own sake was considered a luxury. The overriding goal was social efficiency, not the realization of individual desire for self-improvement. Progressive education still remains prominent today.
And read about what our education system was like 150 years ago. Go back and look at a 5th grade textbook and look at some of the exit exams that were required of a 6th grade in this country. You will be blown away by what we used to do and where we have degraded.
John Dewey is arguably one of the most prominent influences upon progressive education and today's schools. In Dewey's writings, he explains that the only true way to learn something is through experience. Thus, children should only be taught things that can be simulated in a classroom setting. He next states that schools should be a microcosm of the real world. That way, a social system is more important than the knowledge being taught. Dewey believed that a complete overhaul of public education was necessary to be rid of any information that did not have immediate relevance. An academic curriculum, also known as liberal education, finds no home with Dewey. The liberal arts, by definition, means subject material that has been freed or liberated from the need for immediate relevance, which goes against the main core of Dewey's beliefs. However, Henry T. Edmondson, a professor at Georgia State College, states that Dewey's schoolhouse revolution compromises the integrity of American leadership, deprecates moral processes, and thus undermines the very well-being of the American people. We have been seeing the effects of what progressive education has been doing in our schools today. Now let us see what Dewey removed from our public education system. The point of a liberal arts education is to help students fulfill their responsibilities as citizens and grow into cultured individuals. People educated through the liberal arts are very well versed in 7 different categories. These are poetics, dialectics, rhetoric, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. Liberal arts sharpen analytical and communication skills, teach students how to learn, and provide students with a body of knowledge that can be applied to larger contexts. The liberal arts have been completely eradicated from our public schools for the original reason that workers in the Industrial Revolution did not need very much knowledge. Let us look at today's situation.
By the 12th grade, only 3% of African Americans are proficient in mathematics, compared to 4% of Hispanics, 10% of Native Americans, 20% of whites, and 34% of Asian Americans. Out of 29 of the world's developed countries, the United States places 24th in mathematics.
When surveyed, 70% of Asian students said education was very important. However, only 10% of American students said so. Once the value of education has been instilled, then perhaps another issue that needs to be addressed is the myth that, in this society, we often believe that public schools should not be allowed to teach either ethics or morals.
And that's one of the reasons we're in the big trouble we're in now, is the lack of ethics, the breakdown of personal character and responsibility.
Could good ethics and morals be taught through the liberal arts? We could use the great books to positively affect the ethics of our society.
If they're sitting there fairly mind-boggled by all these theories and all this stuff, and they say, how do I better educate myself?
By the great books and read them.
But what if I have not the ability to understand all that I'm reading?
They're written for the great thing about the great books are not written by specialists, by generalists, and they can be read by anyone at all.
You say in your book, this book here on reforming education, I believe, if I remember reading it, that you should buy books that you're reading up.
That's right.
There are many people trying to help our failing public schools. What can be done in the name of education? We need more people like Michelle Rhee, who is making enormous changes by working with nonprofit organizations.
And then we want to Teach for America, the New Teacher Project, KIP. I mean, all of these organizations, they provide a wedge and they provide a level of innovation that we could never sort of do in-house. And they bring this energy and this innovation where they're just constantly, you know, sort of out there seeing the best practices of dozens of districts across the country. They're always going to be able to spark change in a different way than we would be able to on our own.
Innovative thinking like this across the nation could make huge advances in progress. One nonprofit organization, known as Common Core, is focusing upon the incorporation of liberal arts into the public schools. Common Core published a report called Still at Risk. This report explains the urgency for the need of liberal arts in the public schools, using many different statistics to back their assertions that efficient education reform can only be achieved after we make a substantial change in the amount of liberal arts and sciences we teach in our public schools. Another organization, known as the Thomas B. Fordham Institute, is advancing educational excellence through many publications. One publication, called Beyond the Basics, co-written by Chester Finn Jr. and Diane Ravitch, has these ideas on how this nation can go about making the needed changes to help get this country to be comparable with other international students. They suggest that we fund and publicize research on how a liberal arts education helps create good citizens, fosters prosperity, and strengthens the culture. Once the public has become educated, a good way to begin the incorporation of liberal arts into the education system is by creating a strong link between home and school. Incorporating ideas such as family homework, family projects, Family Heritage Day, and family cooperative projects would create a better environment for children to succeed. Progressive education has been used for the last half-century in replacement of the liberal arts, and the liberal arts is now in danger of completely disappearing. Since America's education is now incompetent and weak, perhaps the liberal arts can be part of the solution in fixing our educational system.